it's all that intellectualized, looking for hidden meanings. It's just gone crazy, that's all.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Countess. I hope you all are doing well out there, and welcome back to another video. I wanted to start this video with a couple of verses from one of my favorite musicians out there, Mr. David Bowie. And this little couplet of verses comes from his song, Station to Station. He says, "Here are we, one magical moment. Such is the stuff from where dreams are woven. Bending sound, dredging through the ocean, lost in my circle. Here are we, one magical movement, from Kether to Malkuth. There are you drive like a demon from station to station." That's right, guys. Today in this video, I want to take a look at one of Billy's songs. It's in the same vein of videos that I've done before, highlighting different songs of his and the lyrics that he writes with all of these double layers and coded language and esoteric, knowledge and sort of metaphor for the whole PID thing as well. But this one song bleeds into another song of his, and they're both highly connected. And it's a connection that I don't think a lot of people make, when they're listening to these songs. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the very first song that I wanted to look at is his reprisal of Venus and Mars. Okay, so that song starts, "Standing in the hall of the great cathedral, waiting for the transport to come. Starship 21ZN89, a good friend of mine, studies the stars. Venus and Mars are all right tonight. Come away on a strange vacation, holiday hardly begun. Run into a good friend of mine who sold me a sign. Reach for the stars. Venus and Mars are all right tonight." That song, guys, is off of Billy's and Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings, their Venus and Mars album, right? And it is the reprisal to the original Venus and Mars. This one has always been my favorite of the two, and because I love the imagery that, these lyrics invoke in my mind. I actually think of like the Heaven's Gate cult or something, going into the great cathedral and waiting for their transport to take them away, right? Well, kind of going back into the whole vibe of Bowie's song, Station to Station, and considering that this Venus and Mars reprisal song is, the first song that bleeds into Spirits of Ancient Egypt. These two songs are highly connected, and he put it in there for a reason right before Spirits of Ancient Egypt. And you can even hear in the reprisal, after the lyrics are sung, they kind of go off into this like dreamy kind of like cosmic vibe sounding music with like alien sounds and like radio station sounds coming through. I will link I'll put a link into the song so you guys can take a listen to it. And it bleeds into Spirits of Ancient Egypt, where we all know that song is blatant, right? Spirits of Ancient Egypt are on the telephone, right? They're hung up on the telephone. But there are also a few different lines in this song. So this all makes me think of, station to station, Egypt station, going and waiting for the transport to come, a starship, right? You're reaching for the stars. We all come from stars, right? This song reminds me of all these themes of Thelema. It reminds me of stargates. Egypt Station is talking about a stargate of some sort. And I think I know what that stargate is. A lot of people might be quick to quip and say, oh, he's just probably referencing, in the metaphysical way, the Great Pyramids of Giza, which are said to be like the most famous stargate in Egypt, right? But there's actually a different place in Egypt, and I will get to that very shortly. And so, tying into Spirits of Ancient Egypt, the song, just curious little bits in that song. I looked up in the lyrics book what he had to say about Spirits of Ancient Egypt, and basically he just sort of like joked it off to, he had this book about Egypt, and he was really on a like surrealism trip, so he thought it'd be cool to just kind of like mesh up words together, kind of like doing a cut up method, making things seem really weird, right? So, and also playing on words when he says you could sell an elevator to Geronimo. Obviously, right? Geronimo, you're dropping down to the ground. An elevator can pick you up or down, but just selling an elevator to Geronimo when he's already falling down. It's just kind of funny imagery, right? But Geronimo, that made me think back to how it's allegedly been said that the Skull and Bones Society of Yale, how they have the skull of Geronimo in their possession. I just thought that was kind of an interesting tie, and Billy's alleged ties to the Bush family. Just kind of an interesting connection there. I thought that was kind of funny. He also makes mention of driving a Cadillac across the Irish Sea, right? Yeah, so my very, very good friend Kat from Supernatural Beatles channel chimed in on this one. And again, she's got an amazing perspective, a British perspective of this whole thing. And she knows different things that me as an American wouldn't know living over here. I did live there for a while, but I certainly am not like familiar with a lot of the myth and lore of things. And she has Irish Celtic connections, so she knows her business. And she brought up the interesting theory that there is said to be a stargate in the Irish Sea. So driving a Cadillac across the sea that has a said stargate in it, when you're talking about contacting the spirits of ancient Egypt on the telephone, right? Channeling those spirits. Who else channeled spirits in Egypt? Guesses? Anybody? Mr. Crowley. So there's that tie too, right? He was dictated the Book of the Law through an entity called Ios in the Great Pyramid of Giza. So just all these little connections going back to Billy's connection with Father Crowley, as Memoirs says. And so, Kat sent me this diagram here that shows the relations to the said 12 supposed stargates on Earth to the lineup of the Kabbalah Tree of Life. And I just found that so fascinating, especially considering Bowie's song Station to Station, we're one magical movement from Kethar to Malkuth. Kethar to Malkuth is your top to, your crown chakra to your base chakra. That song is about Kabbalah and moving station to station. And the Kabbalah is the sort of universal map or blueprint of the makeup of our universe and ourselves, the macro versus the micro, as above, so below, right? And that tree of life is found in any sort of life that there is on earth, as there is in heaven. Just And then there's that whole Hermetic vibe too, right? And we'll get into that too in a little bit. There's some more Hermeticism applied to all of this too. What a coincidence, right? There are no coincidences. We have found something really, really funny too that I found about this whole possible Stargate in the Irish Sea. There is an island in the Irish Sea where the Stargate is said to be coordinated by, and that island is called Island. EYE Island. Coincidence? I think not. So usually it's said, like the ancient astronauts, that's what they call them, right, on the Discovery Channel show. Well, the theories about Stargates is that Stargates are these devices that are used for instantaneous travel between distant locations or dimensions, right? And there are many, many said Stargates around the world. Basic ones are said to be like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids of Giza, Easter Island, Machu Picchu, those types of places. And even Area 51 in Nevada is said to be a Stargate of some sort. And even in 2015, NASA admitted that the idea of Earth portals is highly likely, and that they had a spacecraft called the Themis and different sort of cluster probes amassed enough information and observational data to confirm that magnetic Stargate portals exist in many locations. But this is information that they don't openly tout about because basically it's chalked up to like sort of fiction or non-proven science at this point. But even though it's really more metaphysical and a metaphysical type science. But this all kind of goes back again to Crowley, and Billy's tie to Crowley. And I just wanted to take a look at our handy dandy book, The Memoirs from Mr. Tom U. Harriet. And just a couple of pages in this book I wanted to point out. The main page being 324. So when I was looking at the memoirs and looking to page 324, which that numerology right there breaks down to the number 9, signaling a completion in a cycle of sorts. Let's look at part of the footnote at the bottom of the page. So it shows the artwork to the album Egypt Station, right? And so it says in the second to the last paragraph that all of these new updates and updated footnotes, they started to include many new details connecting Egyptian symbolism to Paulism. Those additions, the addition from 2018 was when Billy was first referred to us as our scarab, the gold-winged beetle. These and other new Egyptian elements added to the hardcover release on the 9th of September in 2018 were supported by the 7th of September 2018 release of Paul McCartney's album Egypt Station, deriving its artwork from his Ebony 1988 painting. The train station or spaceport connects heaven and earth, not only for the ancient gods to come to him, but for him to meet them where they are. It is his point of ascension, and the ibex stands ready. That right there, guys. Egypt Station, that, the artwork, the whole concept, and each song is even a different station. So you're like arriving at a different station with each song. But that all of the artwork, showing the 8-pointed sun in the sky, like the 8-pointed star of Ishtar, just giving nods to these ancient gods, totally ties back to this Venus and Mars reprisal into the Spirits of Ancient Egypt song. His connection, he's telling us, guys, that he is a messenger of the gods. He's waiting for the transport to come. It's all tied into the Crowleyanity and Thelema, bowing down to these ancient gods, right? So, and I was talking about the different stargates and what I think, we would automatically assume that the Stargate or the Egypt station that he's talking about would be like maybe a station by the Great Pyramids of Giza, that being a known Stargate, allegedly. Well, there is an actual other major alleged Stargate, and that is called the Temple of Seti. And that is actually, it's the Great Temple of Abydos. And that is in Egypt. And so it was a temple established by the Pharaoh Seti I, who thought it was time for, his people to get back to the old gods, get back to worshiping the polytheistic, old gods, who were the 7 gods of this temple, of the Great Temple of Abydos, is Osiris, Isis, Horus, Amun, Ra-Horkathi, Ptah, and Seti I. So I was thinking, I recognize Ra-Horkathi, and I'm so sorry I'm mispronouncing it. Ra, basically. He is also a known key god of Thelema that they worship. The key deities in Thelema are Nuit, Hadit, Ra-Horkathi, Therion, and Iowas. And so I just find that interesting. I truly believe that the Egypt station is this great temple of Abydos. And it's the temple of Seti I, the first pharaoh. And he just wanted to bring his society back to these old gods. And it's a symbol of a new age, a new dawn. And this is where the myth of Osiris and Isis and Horus kind of came back into fashion, if you will, in society. And so I found that interesting, that one of the gods of Thelema, one of the key gods of Thelema, were worshipped. And, Seti built 7 different chapels for these 7 different deities, himself included, right? You're the pharaoh. You are a representation of the divine on earth, according to them. And so in this temple, they actually found in the hieroglyphs, on one side of the temple, it shows an apparatus that looks like a Tesla coil. Very, very fascinating. It looks exactly like a Tesla coil. And the Tesla coils were invented by Nikola Tesla back in the 1800s as a sort of wireless way of emitting and sharing electricity. So just very interesting that they found this, because on the opposite wall in the temple, it shows the same device, which they call the Osiris device. On the opposite wall, the Osiris device is attached to something called the Nashabat bar of Osiris, which looks like a wormhole, a representation of a wormhole or an Einstein-Rosen bridge. So fascinating imagery. The Stargate principle is within this temple. There's actually an episode of Ancient Aliens, I'm not sure which one it is, that does discuss this temple. You can also look it up on YouTube. I'll leave a link to the video I saw that gave me this information. Just very fascinating stuff, and so I don't think the Great Pyramid, yes, I think the Great Pyramids were also used as some sort of Stargate, or, energy producing or, emitting sort of structures. I'm not sure exactly, But I do believe this great temple of Abydos could be considered Egypt Station. And it just kind of tickled me a little bit too. I started thinking of the main gods of Thelema, right? So, and thinking about that footnote, how he says that Billy is a messenger of the gods, right? And the gods come through him and he goes to them. He's a messenger of them. What gods is he a messenger of, right? And that makes me start thinking about all these different things in my head. So Ios, the guy, the entity who dictated the Book of the Law to Crowley, Ios, right, is said to be a messenger of the gods. Messenger of what gods particularly, right? Just like Billy. Well, that made me think of this picture from Magical Mystery Tour, where Billy's sitting at a desk with a sign that says I, you was, with his layered meanings right there in bold print, is screaming to us, I was. So I can't help but think. And then I think back to what he named his band after the Beatles, Wings, right? Wings are representations of vehicles that connect heaven with the earth, just like that footnote on page 324 said. Connecting heaven and earth, there's that Hermeticism again. As above, so below, the wingspan connects heaven with the earth. And that brings me to the final bit, our gold-winged scarab beetle, right? The gold-winged scarab. He is the transformed new version of himself as Billy McCartney, messenger of the gods. And that whole little thing right there, it represents his integration with McCartney as our gold with the gold, and the winged scarab. The winged scarab is the messenger that flies between heaven and earth of the gods. Related back to Hermes, which in tow could also be related back to that picture of Tom in the book with wearing the headdress of Hermes, right? He is Billy's messenger. Billy is supposed to be a representation of Horus, right? So Tom is Billy's messenger, a messenger of the gods. So that whole theme is just like pumping really strongly throughout all of this. And it all leads back to those ancient Egyptian spirits calling on the telephone, right? Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. And, just to tie in lastly to the whole channeling bit, and thinking about, who Billy is being a messenger for, right? And then we're all messengers of some sort, right? But it's like, it seems kind of like a paradox. So it's like Billy is a messenger of the gods, right? Tom is a messenger of Billy and Paul. Some could say I am a messenger of Tom or whatnot, getting his kind of message across, and it just keeps going on and on and on like that, right? It doesn't matter who you are or what your position is. We're all messengers of some sort. But messengers of what? What is that? What is the gods? What is that? I think of it as source, right? And source is one. If we all come together in this consciousness, that consciousness is source. So were left as one with that consciousness. So kind of funny thinking that way. You think of that kind of pattern, right? Like source is one, and then everything flows from there. Well, if you look at page 234 in the memoirs, just real quick, it does state in the second paragraph, Billy says that as his death day they represented Paul as Sunday. Recalling that John learned of the death and had gone mad over it, Paul is also Tuesday, as in Stupid Bloody Tuesday. 3 days represent Paul in Paulism. In the song that references Jane Asher's latter use, she came in through the bathroom window, I sang parallel lines with the identical meaning that Paul now talks to me, Sunday's on the phone to Monday, Tuesday's on the phone to me. So there's that, Billy is Osiris and Horus all in one, right? But he's also Billy. It's that 3 that the word stacking says John learned Paul is also 3 days, right? Paul is Sunday and Tuesday, and Billy is Monday. So they're all linked. There's that trinity of Isis, Osiris, and Horus, all linked in one, with Billy and Paul coming together to make Billy McCartney. There's that 3 into the 1. So very interesting, just all from one little song. I love that reprisal song. I listen to it often, and I just thought that it would be a fun one to take a look at. And you got to look at why he positioned certain songs in certain areas, just like why certain footnotes in the memoirs are put there, to give you a little bit more information or to hide something in plain sight for us to try and figure out. And it's a lot of fun to sit here and try to figure this stuff out. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff and the correlations between, Billy being more open about his connection to Crowley and how he's basically telling us about his situation with blending with McCartney, as well as being a messenger, being the beacon of light that brings in this aeon of Horus, this age of Aquarius. That's what it's all about, guys. And that is kind of what goes back to the whole Pharaoh Seti wanting to bring back the old gods, So where else to do that? In Egypt Station. Bring the world, back to know the ways of the old gods. And you get there through Egypt Station. Choo-choo! Grab your tickets, all aboard. Going on a journey. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you for this one. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next one. So until then, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
But though they may be parted, there is still a chance built